Our kids would come in and shoot people.
Police say they never heard of the gang before today.
You know, I talked to some school officials, and they informed me that they hadn't had any problems with these two, and that there were no real disciplinary problems at all with them.
Tonight, police are searching the homes of the two young men they say were the gunmen, hoping to find some clue as to what triggered this extraordinary and terrible burst of violence.
There has been so much confusion here today, it's difficult to tell what all happened, but one young girl I spoke to said during the shooting, she heard the gunmen shouting at some of their victims as loud as they could, "This is what you get for the way you've treated us." Ted?
Tom, I gather you know this neighborhood particularly well.
Yeah, Ted, I live just a few miles away from here. I know a lot of the people who work in the school. I know some of the students who went to school there. I don't know any of the victims. But this is a neighborhood that's always had a very active school community. It's a park where people play with their kids right behind the school. It's been the kind of place that an awful lot of people move to, in fact, thinking that they were getting away from this kind of violence in other areas. And people are very, very shocked and stunned tonight.
Can you think of any acts of violence that have taken place there at all over the past year or so?
None that were large enough that they would attract particular community interest. The high schools down here certainly have had some problems, as any high schools would in large areas or big high schools. But there haven't been any particular violent episodes right at that high school. There were a couple of shootings at a mall not terribly far from there over the past, I'd say, year and a half. But those seem to be isolated incidents, seem to involve different gang members as gang shootings seem to go. But nothing at the high school itself, and in fact, that's part of what has stunned so many people here, is they thought it was a good high school without these kind of problems, and of course it was a good high school, and nobody expected this to happen there.
Tom Foreman, thanks very much. Joining us now live, three of the students who attend Columbine High School, all sophomores. Joshua Lapp was in the library doing his math homework when the shooting began. Chris Wisher and Jake Apodaca were in the back of the school in the parking lot when they heard what they thought were gunshots. So guys, let me begin with the two of you. Tell me when you realized they were gunshots. Either one of you.
Yeah, well, we were in back of the school, and at first we heard what sounded like some kind of fireworks or firecrackers going off. So we just didn't think much of it. And we came back up closer to the school, and we looked up, and we heard shots going everywhere. And we noticed a kid in a trench coat and a kid in a white shirt. The kid in the trench coat had a gun drawn, and he was shooting just everywhere. It was some kind of shotgun. The kid in the white was just standing there. And I think there was I think there was another one with a gun somewhere else, because I could hear shots from a different kind of gun coming from somewhere else. We saw 3 people get shot, and we didn't really know what was going on. Then we looked up, and one of the gunmen turned towards us and started shooting. So we just fell down to the ground and just sat there for a while, covering our heads. And once we knew that they were done shooting, we stood back up, and we saw the kid in the white on the side of the school start throwing some kind of bomb on top of the school. It was a grenade or some kind of bomb. And at that time, we just ran.
Jake, do you know either of these kids? I mean, even now, when you hear their names, do you know who they are? Do those names mean anything to you?
I knew one of the kids, the kid that was shooting at us. I recognized him, and I've seen him around school a lot, but I wasn't like friends with him or anything.
What do you know? What do you know about him? Tell me, as a matter of fact, tell me what you know about the trench coat mafia. I mean, did anybody take those kids seriously?
Not really. Everybody just kind of makes fun of them a lot, and they're just the kids that stick out a lot and kind of the freaks of the school.
Josh, did you know any of those kids?
I'd seen him in the halls before. I'd never really talked with them. I've seen him in the halls, and that's about it.
Now, you know, the group, the gang, when I say did anybody take him seriously, I mean, what was the assumption about them? I hear that some of them were actually, in fact, the 2 guys who who appear to have done this were known as really smart guys. Did you know
yeah,
anything about them?
They were both very smart computer-wise. They were very intelligent towards computers. Other than that, people kind of stayed away from them because they didn't know what they'd do. A lot of times they'd react in the halls to somebody saying hi to them and just get up in their face and get mad at them. It was for nothing, and it was just, nobody really knew what to expect from them.
I'd like to hear a little more about that, but we're just going to take a short break. We'll be back with more from the students in a moment.
Drugs, I guess.
Any reason to believe that that these kids were into drugs?
Well, if you'd look at them, I'd guess you could say they did. They kind of look like they do.
Guys, it's been a terrible day for all of you, I know, and I know you've had to go through this story a number of times. So thank you. I apologize for putting you all through it again, but you're good to have stayed up late and to have done this with us. I appreciate it very much. When we come back, we'll check with a trauma surgeon and the Littleton fire chief.